Hey, gotta turn on the microphone. There goes the perfect show. Man, I was all excited about week number 2 and starting off and seeing how long before I could make any kind of weird mistakes or have any glitches. But why don't we just get it out of the way? Happy Monday to you. I hope you had a Hall of Fame weekend. And I don't just mean football. I hope you had a terrific weekend enjoying one of the last few weekends before football takes over. That's more for me. Unless you're the diehard fan who watches every single game and you never miss a snap. I can't actually claim that. Sometimes I have to go back and watch plays and snaps because it's impossible to watch it all live. But I do know there are 30 days, 30 days until the NFL season kicks off, NFL 2026. But it did get a jolt of joy, a lot of emotions, a lot of crying so hard you're laughing emojis, but also just the tears pouring down the face emojis from what was an emotional but very special Hall of Fame weekend in Canton, Ohio. Had the chance to watch speeches and clips and interactions and gold jacket moments. And so I'm really excited to share my reflections with you. And coming up this hour, just over 30 minutes away, I think it's one of the coolest elements of starting a new show and having a little more creative control over it is that I can issue invitations to some of my favorite coworkers and colleagues, those from the past, those that I still work with now, but those who I respect and who I know have offered such great support along my journey. And so one of those guys will join me on this show. We work together back at ESPN, and he's been a regular guest on my shows for the last 15 years. So I'm really excited to welcome Russell Baxter. If you know the NFL or you listen to any of the shows in my past or follow any of the outlets that I've been part of over the last 20 years, well, you know Russ as a longtime NFL writer, historian, insider. And so we'll talk about the Hall of Fame and what it's like to be there for an induction ceremony. But also, he's just a wealth of knowledge. Seriously, he's a football encyclopedia. So Russell Baxter will join us about 30 minutes from now, and that'll be awesome. Working on some good guests for this week. Maybe I'll tease those coming up in a few minutes or in the second hour. We'll see where I inject it. But it was funny because on Sunday mornings, my husband sleeps in. So he gets up earlier than me during the work week. He's up at 6 a.m. He's already started working by 6:30, the nature of his job. And he can be on the phone and he's really got to be locked in. So coffee is critical. But he gets up earlier than me and he starts working earlier than me. So on the weekends, I try to get up with the dogs and let him sleep in. Now, as it happened on this past Saturday morning, I actually didn't get home and in bed from my late Sirius XM radio show until almost 2:00. And so I was beat. He was really sweet to let me stay in bed. So he went ahead and got up with the dogs again. But on Sundays, at least until football starts, we're right now enjoying the later service at church. It's funny because going back, say 10 years ago, or even to the church that we left in New Jersey just under a year ago, we really didn't like the late service because it felt like half the day was gone. And also in New Jersey, the part of New Jersey where we lived, which was just west and north of New York City, the traffic would be so bad by midday on Sunday that it really wasn't worth staying in bed because you'd have to take twice as long to get to and from church. So we never went to the early service. I was usually teaching kiddos we never went to the late service. I was usually teaching kiddos at the early service and then we would go to the second one. But because the church we're attending now even though it's a bit of a drive, it's a real laid back service in at the 11:30, and also there's not as much traffic. It's kind of easy to get to and from. So we planned a whole Sunday around going to the later service at our church, and I'll tell you about that in a second. But he was able to sleep in on Sunday. So he comes out of the bedroom on Sunday morning after he's done some sleeping in. I'm trying to keep the dogs quiet. And I have spent at least an hour going through my contacts and writing text messages or finding names and emails to reach out to people so that they can join us here on the show this week or next week. And as much as I generally like to cede that responsibility to the producer so I can focus on content, in this case, a lot of these industry reporters, insiders, personalities are friends of mine, and I want to let them know how much I would appreciate it and how much it would mean to me for them to jump on. So I want to make the initial context. So yeah, I spent, oh my gosh, over an hour just texting people and letting people know about the new show. And if they already knew about the news show, letting them know how much it would mean and how cool it would be to have them jump in these early stages. So I did a ton of that on Sunday morning. So then we went to church, and yeah, like I said, we had this whole day planned. It was so much fun. We call it our Hall of Fame Sunday. We went to a Mongolian hibachi restaurant, and you get to pick all your proteins and your spices and your sauces and your vegetables, and we just chow down. And it's great because it's all really healthy stuff, but it also fills you up. So almost spoiled our plans because right on the heels of lunch, about an hour later, we went to IMAX to see the new Spider-Man movie. And so I will give you my review without any spoilers. But we did go to IMAX because I'm an IMAX shill. I love IMAX. If it's a good, even remotely interesting action or drama movie with lots of explosions, I definitely like to see it in IMAX. And actually, you can feel the seats vibrate too sometimes when there's a really good action scene or explosion. So we went to see the new Spider-Man movie. If you were watching last week, you know that Spider-Man actually made a cameo here on the show. So he was here before he was on my screen in IMAX. And if you haven't seen it, all you got to do is check out our social media or check out our YouTube channel, which right now, if you're watching live, you know that there are short clips. They're longer videos. They're short clips that producer Zach puts together when the show is done so that you can check them out on your own time. It's the beauty of the internet. It's everywhere. It's all the time. And so after Spider-Man was here making a cameo on our show, he was on the big screen in IMAX on Sunday, and it was awesome. So we have lunch. I'm full, but it's a tradition, of course. You can't go to a movie and not get popcorn. So we ended up with a big popcorn and a big soda because I love those freestyle soda machines where you can get any combination. I got to tell you, my favorite is vanilla Coke Zero. Vanilla Coke Zero with a little bit of the vanilla Coke or wait a minute, let's see. It's the Coke Zero with vanilla. So it's the vanilla Coke Zero, which is my favorite all the time. But I also added some cream soda to it, which made it kind of a fun combo. I know I'm odd, but I swear sometimes I like going to the movies more for the popcorn and the soda. Soda out of the machine, right? So the ones that you get in the store, they're fine, they'll do. But when you get them out of the machine or on tap, those actually taste better, I think. So we didn't get home until 8 hours later after we'd left. I felt kind of bad because the dogs, it was way past their dinner time and they were both singing. For those of you who have dogs that get really excited when you're gone for a while and you come back, we have a mini Aussie. Australian Shepherds are known for their singing. And so Daisy was singing up a storm. She loves to sing, actually. Anytime that my husband and I sing, she starts crooning at the top of her lungs. And so we leave people happy birthday messages or we sing to them sometimes when we call, and Daisy will chime in. Daisy starts singing, well then Flower starts barking or howling or whatever. And so it was a whole chorus yesterday when we got home. But it was such a good day. And multiple times I told my husband, thank you for the date Sunday. I had such a great day. There's not many days until, or not many weeks, I should say, until these Sundays are taken, they're spoken for. So we will enjoy them while we have them. So glad to have you with us. I'd love to hear from you what you did for your weekend. Of course, we've got the comments as we head into week number 2, the live comments. And someone actually asked me, if you go back and you watch the YouTube video or you watch the show on YouTube after the fact, are the comments still there? Or can I see the comments? Yeah, they are actually. They unscroll. Unscroll? Is that a word? They scroll. They scroll organically during the feed as if they are appearing at the same point in the show when the initial viewer wrote them. And so it is kind of fun. You can see them unfold even as you watch the stream. Now, Zach told me just briefly here that this video stream froze a little bit. I'm back in my own studio. As you can see, I've got Grandma and Penny and dolphins and my Star Wars shelf. And of course, have you noticed the cats yet there too? And I'm waiting for someone to ask me about this photo right here. It's one of my favorite photos, which is why it's up there. Not so much because I need a photo of me. I know what I look like, but it's a really special photo. Or this that is strategically placed on the shelf next to Penny, or even this piece of hardware right here. So I'm waiting for people to ask me. But since we'll have another edition of Ask Amy Anything, we'll get to that. But I am back in my own studio as opposed to being at Mom's on Friday. I felt even more uncomfortable because the background was different. The light was different. It was just one of those days. I'd worked late the night before on Sirius XM and just felt super uncomfortable. But the stream worked really well at my mom's because she's got great fiber. So if this particular stream here back at our country home is freezing, you just have to let me know because we're still working on various ways. Sometimes I think maybe I have too many windows open or maybe I can I have to make sure my old laptop, sometimes I take it off the Wi-Fi because it doesn't go to the Ethernet or the router being plugged in specifically automatically. So if I have extra windows open, that might be the issue too. So anyway, just let us know how it is. Week 2, my entire goal is to find more of a rhythm for Zach and I to get into more of a routine. We are laying the foundation just in time for football season because it's coming 30 days away. We're talking 5 NFL Sundays from yesterday. So it's creeping up on us. Actually, it doesn't creep. It comes in like a roaring lion this football season. But it was really sweet to be able to have the Hall of Fame weekend, and this is planned by the NFL. The Hall of Fame weekend is a centerpiece in and of itself. It's that crown jewel that is presented at the beginning of a football season so that people can see the possibilities, the potential. And I tell you, every year, especially now as I know a lot of these athletes or I've covered them during my career, it's a little more poignant, I would say, because you really get a sense of how fast time goes and how you blink and it can be over. But also having covered a Drew Brees and Adam Vinatieri, really the entire length of my network career, it represents something. It represents a lot of years. So congratulations to Adam Vinatieri, the NFL's all-time leading scorer and greatest kicker. Drew Brees, one of the best ambassadors for not just New Orleans, but for the game of football and the way he carries himself and the standard to which he aspires, both physically, personally, professionally, spiritually. Also, Larry Fitzgerald, he's all class all the time. And having just lost his dad a couple months ago, I'm sure this was even more of an emotional speech for him. Loved seeing Roger Craig. Now, he was on stage, though he did pre-tape his acceptance speech. And it sounds like there was a reason for that, but I am very impressed with the way that he carried himself as well. Luke Kuechly, I think one of my favorite elements of this Hall of Fame induction weekend is the fact that Luke, who is still in his 30s, so second youngest ever to be inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame, he was able to have more of his family with him. Okay, so it's amazing that a bunch of the Hall of Famers had their parents there, but not all of them did. In fact, Larry has lost both of his parents. His mom died from breast cancer when he was a teenager, and his dad, as I say, just passed away a few months ago. And so he had neither of his parents there. Roger Craig didn't either, though he did have grandkiddos there. And he had like a bunch of huge family photos, right? So his family photo arrays were a little more extensive than some of the others. Well, in Luke's case, though, the opposite was true because he's younger. His grandmothers were there. And I thought that was amazing because my grandmothers are my heroes and they're both gone now. One lived to 91, my mom's mom, and then my Grammy Helen, who was really America's grandma, she lived until 100 and passed away a few months after that. And they're both represented here on my special shelf behind me in studio. So this is actually Grammy Helen when she was 18 years old. This is my maternal grandparents, and they're like I say, my heroes, my heart, my inspiration, probably two of the most important five people in my entire life. And so I loved it that both of Luke's grandmothers were in attendance at the Hall of Fame in Canton, and they could be there and they looked healthy and they were happy, and they're both in their 90s, which I think is amazing. Talk about good genes that he's had handed down to him. So it was really neat to watch the family moments. Those are always my favorites. I get really choked up at times when these guys are talking to their parents or their kids, their siblings, especially because I've got siblings who have been so important to me. And my brother Matthew, the most important person in my life, the most important man in my world now next to my husband. But I can imagine if I ever get into a Hall of Fame or ever honored that way, that it would be really difficult for me to make it through those parts of my speech that honored mom, grandmas, siblings, of course. So yeah, that was really neat. And I think I started crying with Adam Vinatieri thanking his parents and his dad, right? So his dad was on screen a bunch, and it was amazing to see how he responded to his son being up there after a 24-year career. So producer Zach, let me know if we've got those clips ready, because I'm excited to share some of the favorite moments. So I was watching the speeches and texting Zach to say, hey, I love this, or I love this, and this is what I'd like to share from this particular acceptance speech. And I think one of the first ones that jumped out at me was Adam Vinatieri with his dad. Awesome. Okay.
We have those three.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So he stood up there and I mean, he had kids to thank too and siblings and everything else. But the way his dad cried would just really touched my heart. So as he was talking to his parents, I couldn't help but watch his dad.
It's Paul and Judy. Thank you. You gave me far more than opportunities. You gave me values. You taught me that hard work, humility, accountability, perseverance, and faith. You taught me that if something was worth doing, it's worth doing it right. That character matters more than recognition. The countless hours driving me to practice, games, and camps, sacrifices I didn't fully understand then, but appreciate more every day. Everything that I became as a football player started with the lessons that you taught me. Thank you for believing in me long before anyone else did. And Dad, I can't tell you how special it was for you to have you as my coach throughout my childhood.
Okay, so weird, Zach, because it said something about unmuting my mic, and then I looked down, it's still muted. I gotta figure this out. Maybe I should just leave it unmuted so that way I'm not worried about it. Anyway, love seeing his dad and the relationship they have, but also for those of you who are parents, I'm not a parent yet, being in that moment and watching your son, your child achieve his dream, and just remembering all of the steps and the stops along the way to get there. I love that his dad and his mom got to be there, and he has that special connection with his family, and many of them do. All of these guys had kind words to say about their families and stories to tell about how their families were really the foundation. And so that was awesome. But his dad and the tears, I mean, that's really struck me. So love these Hall of Fame tributes, and we'll drop in more as we go. But yeah, Luke's grandma's being there, that was awesome. So the the various moments that we picked, these are going to be emotional and in some cases funny. So Adam Vinatieri, he was lauded for his humor. People even reached out to me over the weekend and said, wait a minute, that was a little off color, or wait a minute, he really trashed Bill Belichick. Oh, no. That is not the way I saw it. So we'll talk about these various moments. We'll get to a few more of them coming up, but I would love to hear from you. At A-Law Radio is where you can find me on X, Twix, Twitter, whatever. I can't stick to one. I go back and forth all the time. Or on our Instagram, you can just search for All In with Amy Lawrence. I know Instagram is pretty powerful. People love their Insta. TikTok as well. My niece showed me that my account is actually active there. Also searching All In with Amy Lawrence. And then if you want to find us on Facebook, I could not change the name, so it's still the same, After Hours with Amy Lawrence. But I kind of feel like if you search for Amy Lawrence, you'll find it. And people are still asking about the podcast. Yes, it's available either in video form right here. Oh, look, it's my goalpost. Don't move the goalposts, Amy. It's on video form captured as soon as the live broadcast is done. And so you'll be able to find it there, whether it's you can find the live tab or the video clips that Zach provides, even the shorts. So getting attacked by a bug at the end of week 1, of course, starting launch week with my dog throwing up in the middle of the show. That was fun. And then ending with another animal encounter and a bug attacking me even as I was trying to say goodbye. And my mom says to me an hour later, oh, I finally got that bug. Great, just in time. Anyway, you can find the short videos, the longer clips, and then, of course, the entire show every day on YouTube, or you can find it on your favorite podcast platform. I actually spoke with a friend yesterday. She said she's been following the show, but on her phone, and she just listens to it. She doesn't have the video. The video plays, but I think she minimizes it. So she's in her car a lot for work. So she's been watching. Thank you, Carly. I appreciate the support. So as we head through this show, it's a Hall of Fame Monday. The NFL preseason is off and running. And yeah, it's really neat to be able to share some of these moments, but we'd love to hear from you, whether on the live stream, the comment section, I can see it over here, or if you want to weigh in on X. See, there I go. X. I guess I should just be consistent at A-Law Radio. Great to have you with us here on this Monday. All In with Amy Lawrence, YouTube, and the Rogue Media Network.
Lake Waco Golf Club is a semi-private facility nestled along the north point of Lake Waco, one of the few facilities in Texas to have a full 18-hole regulation golf course as well as an executive 18-hole par 3 golf course. Plus, check out their bar and grill, which is open to the public. And if you're not a golfer, then enjoy time by the pool or even enjoy fishing around Lake Waco. Become a member today and call to book your tee time. Lake Waco Golf Club, where family and friends fun begins. Check them out at lakewacogc.com for more information.
Summer isn't over yet. Make every last splash count at Waco Surf. Catch perfect waves, float the lazy river, or relax on the beach while the kids make unforgettable memories. Stay in their hotel or private cabin, or hook up with your RV. Located just 90 miles from Dallas and Austin, set on 450 acres in the heart of Texas, Waco Surf is unlike any other water park around. Before school starts, give your family one more epic adventure. WacoSurf.com. Book your stay today and catch a wave.
It's the premier charity event of the year, the 2026 Central Texas Cattle Barons Ball, presented by Ascension Providence. A fun evening filled with great food and drink, dancing, a spectacular auction, and more. This year's theme is Nashville Nights, Neon Lights, and Bullfights. Get your tickets now, donate, or be a sponsor. Help support the American Cancer Society to find a cure. The 2026 Central Texas Cattle Barons Ball, October 24th at MCC Highlander Ranch. For more information, go to centraltexascattlebaronsball.org.
Enjoy a quiet atmosphere with beautiful river views at the Brazos Landing, located in Waco along the Brazos River across from McLean Stadium. Enjoy homemade dishes like shrimp and grits, chicken piccata, braised short ribs, prime New York steaks, and more. Plus, enjoy a delicious dessert like creme brulee or key lime pie. Open for lunch and dinner Tuesday through Sunday. Brazos Landing in Waco, the only place where I-35 and the Brazos River meet.
For 75 years, Nalgene Outdoor has been your trusted companion, fueling adventures and helping protect the planet. We're committed to reducing waste, improving access to clean water, and providing simple, safe, and sustainable products for you and your family. No gimmicks, just durable, well-designed bottles built to last. Join us in our mission to amplify life, not complicate it. Because at Nalgene, what goes into our bottles matters as much as the adventures they fuel. Explore more at nalgene.com. That's NALGENE.com.
When you learn a language with Babbel, you start a journey that takes you further and further. Anytime and anywhere you wish. It's easy and fun. Broadens your horizons and keeps your brain fit. A journey into new thoughts, new cultures, new adventures. So what are you waiting for? Start your journey with Babbel now. Go to babbel.com or download the app.
You can't see it, but there's a red light on my microphone. So when it's red, it's an indicator light. When it's red, it means it's off. I guess I shouldn't assume anymore that I've left it on. You know what happens when you assume. I know I can say the words on the internet, but I'll just let you figure it out. Hope you had a great weekend. It was hot, hot, hot in Texas. There really isn't any other August weekend. I'm continually blown away that the temperature never drops below, say, 75 right now in Texas. And it has been excruciating at times. However, just to make myself tougher, my husband says I'm crazy, but he also says that he admires it. Just to make myself tougher, and because I'm stubborn as heck, when we do the yard work and lawn mowing routine, I actually go outside with the push mower and do the backyard. Now, my husband can do the other 2 acres. So our yard is about 2 acres. And then we've got a bunch of land in the back. But he can do the 2 acres on the zero turn in the same amount of time that I can do just our backyard off the patio. In my defense, it is a hill, a sloped hill, which makes it quite the challenge physically. But the whole time I'm mowing, and I've got my muck boots on and my big sun hat and, of course, water nearby so I don't pass out. But my little push mower, it needs to go up and down the hill multiple times just to make sure we cut through the thick grass. And this is actually only, a couple weeks, not even 2 weeks of growing grass. It just, the grass, the weeds, everything grows here like nuts. The bugs, as I told you about last week. Anyway, so the whole time that I was mowing on Saturday around noon, so not even the hottest part of the day, but the whole time I was mowing, I was thinking, all right, got popcorn at the movie theater on Sunday. I can have some ice cream, which I actually didn't end up having. What did I have? I had a little chocolate. That was my incentive. But yeah, the whole time I'm trying to tease myself and trick myself by thinking about the desserts that I can have after the fact. Goodness, Texas is a lot, but I'm happy to be here, and I'm certainly happy to be here with you on a Monday. We're going through some of my favorite moments from the Hall of Fame speeches, and of course, I'd love to hear from you on our stream here on the YouTube channel. I mentioned Luke's grandma's, and of course, he thanked his family and his wife, and it was really neat to see his siblings and all that jazz. But also, at the end of it, I thought it was really cool. Now, we got a couple of Hall of Famers who spent their entire careers with the same franchise, which isn't as common anymore. But Larry Fitzgerald was one of those. And Luke Kuechly, even though his career was only 8 years, he spent the whole thing with the Carolina Panthers. And even as they were becoming and I know they've gone through a swoon the last couple of years, but becoming a team that would end up playing in the Super Bowl. Remember Cam Newton's MVP season? They were 15-1 in the regular season and got all the way to the Super Bowl and took on the Denver Broncos. So that was Super Bowl 50. But even going back before that, right, the ownership of David Tepper and the way that they were able to bring in, gosh, some of the best coaches and personnel. Ron Rivera was there, which was awesome, and a lot of Luke's teammates. So there was some major foundation building around what Luke meant in the center of that defense. And it was kind of cool for him to pay tribute then to the Panthers fans and the Panthers organization, Panthers Nation, who supported him.
It was something that Jerry Richardson used to say. He must have told us 1,000 times. The most valuable member of the team is the fan. Well, the fans in Charlotte and throughout the Carolinas sure proved that Mr. Richardson was right. You welcomed us. More importantly, you welcomed me to the community. And every game, every play at Bank of America Stadium felt like being home because of you guys. Some of you are here in Canton, and that means the world to me. I've been incredibly fortunate to have been touched by the game of football. Football has given me so much more than I could have ever imagined. The people I met, the experiences we've shared, and the joy that I found throughout this game. It will stay with me for the rest of my life. Your love and support have meant more than you'll ever know. Thank you to everyone who's been part of this journey. Thank you for sharing today with me, and most importantly, keep pounding.
Honestly, I don't know that I'd ever heard that much from Luke Kuechly. He let his ferocious hits and his cerebral defense. He was so smart. High football IQ. I remember him calling out plays, putting guys in various positions, moving guys around on the defense. He was the quarterback of the defense. And when you have a guy who not only is athletically gifted, but intellectual about the game as he is, goodness, it's no wonder that he's a Hall of Famer with the 8 seasons under his belt. And like I said, he looks super young, but it was awesome to see him really respect those guys around him who played longer, but also who needed a little longer to get into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. All right. So on the other end of the spectrum, you got a Roger Craig who needed to get inducted via the senior committee. And it was awesome that there were so many of his Niners teammates there, Jerry Rice and Joe Montana. And he had stories about all of them, which was awesome. Ronnie Lott, who he said was his teammate and his brother when he was with the Niners. And regardless of how he got in, it doesn't matter. He is the same. He's got a gold jacket, his joy, his exuberance. That was all phenomenal. And I think anything worth having is worth sacrificing for. It's worth waiting for. And so he is in the club now. And I believe that the Hall of Fame brothers, the 300 something other athletes who are in the Hall of Fame, they certainly understand and were so over the top in celebrating him. He was rubbing the top of his bust and just happy. But it's such a different perspective from Luke, because Luke is younger and his grandmothers were there, whereas Roger Craig is older and his grandchildren were featured. So that was neat. But he actually chose to share his acceptance speech in a recorded video. And at first I didn't understand why. Maybe that was a question some of you had as well. Not everyone is comfortable in front of a camera, so it could have been as simple as that. But at the end of his speech, as he talked about facing challenges, he shared with the world that he's facing something new in 2026.
There's another chapter I want to share. I've been diagnosed with vascular dementia that my doctors believe may be related, at least in part, to the concussions I experienced during my career. The changes were gradual. At first, they were easy to dismiss as normal aging. Over time, my family noticed it too, and ultimately led us to seek answers from my doctor. 2 things can be true. Football gave me opportunities beyond anything I could imagine. It helped shape the man I became. At the same time, we know more today about brain health than when I played. And I hope sharing my story encourages people to pay attention to their health and seek help when something doesn't feel right. I want people to know this diagnosis doesn't define me. I am still Roger Craig. I am still a father, a husband, a teammate, a friend, and someone who loves this game and the people who brought it to my life. If sharing my story helps even one family or one former player, then it's worth it.
Amazing, right? To choose that forum, understanding the platform that he had, the attention that would be on him to be vulnerable, to be authentic, to be real, to say, I've got a diagnosis in the form of a new challenge that probably isn't unique to me. And he delivered this message with such grace. He didn't criticize the NFL. In fact, he went on to say that he wouldn't trade a thing, that he wouldn't change anything, that he still loved football for everything that football gave him, for all the doors that football opened. And as I was thinking about what he said, how much more we know about brain health. That is true. Also, there was a moment in Drew Brees' speech where he thanked Junior Seau, who was the leader in the Chargers locker room when Drew was drafted. And of course, you think back over the last several years, even the last 10 years, where the science around brain health and the science around concussions and blows to the head has grown, has swelled, has become so much clearer. Even at the point where we've got helmets that expand upon impact, right? The technology is phenomenal. Or you've got parents who won't allow their kids to play football, at least youth football, where their brains are still developing. And so the debate has been out there. The NFL has been called under a microscope to not only answer for its brain health, but also to take care of those who suffered when there wasn't as much technology or when it wasn't a priority of the NFL. And Roger Craig goes back to those days in the 80s and the 90s when the concussions were considered to be a brief, momentary affliction. Shake it off. You black out, well, you just get back up there. Use some smelling salts. Back out there on the field. I've talked to many, both Hall of Famers and others, who played in that era. Troy Aikman and his authentic revelations about the concussions that he suffered and the moments where he'd black out on field and he couldn't remember. Merrill Hodge, another one who suffered with a bunch of concussions, even Boomer Esiason. So these are guys who played at the highest level, who have incredible careers and yet know that there is fallout and that there could very well down the road be health issues. So here is Roger Craig bringing that into focus. And yes, he's right. Chances are now that when the concussions happen, they're treated right away. I mean, we've got spotters who can see if guys are woozy, spotters who will say, no, they radio down, no, that guy can't go back on the field. Think about Tua Tagovailoa, though, just a couple of years ago, where he was still out there on the field and potentially had a concussion that either was left undiagnosed for a week or untreated. These head injuries, the effects of them can be compounded. And when concussion after concussion after concussion is left untreated or undiagnosed, well, the medical long-term effects can be not just devastating, but they can be in some ways life-altering. And so here is Roger Craig, who's yet another powerful voice to add to the chorus that football has a responsibility and these teams and franchises have a responsibility to their athletes to protect them from themselves, but also make sure that they get the best medical treatment because they're putting their heads and their bodies on the line every time they get out there on the field. So I applaud Roger Craig, even though that was a sobering moment, and yet he will attack this same challenge with the same energy and joy, but also the same support system around him that he did when he played football. So I appreciate that he took that platform and made it about putting the game in a better position and also protecting the athletes who are now walking potentially the same road behind him. Coming up, he's a longtime NFL historian, insider, analyst, writer. Also, we've worked together for years, and I appreciate his insight. I can't wait to bring Russell Baxter onto the show now, and I get to see him. I can't remember how long it's been since we've actually been able to see each other face to face, so this will be fun. It's next here, All In with Amy Lawrence on YouTube and the Rogue Media Network.
Summer isn't over yet. Make every last splash count at Waco Surf. Catch perfect waves, float the lazy river, or relax on the beach while the kids make unforgettable memories. Stay in their hotel or private cabins, or hook up with your RV. Located just 90 miles from Dallas and Austin, set on 450 acres in the heart of Texas, Waco Surf is unlike any other water park around. Before school starts, give your family one more epic adventure. WacoSurf.com. Book your stay today and catch a wave.
It's the premier charity event of the year, the 2026 Central Texas Cattle Barons Ball, presented by Ascension Provident. A fun evening filled with great food and drink, dancing, a spectacular auction, and more. This year's theme is Nashville Nights, Neon Lights, and Bullfights. Get your tickets now, donate, or be a sponsor. Help support the American Cancer Society to find a cure. The 2026 Central Texas Cattle Barons Ball, October 24th at MCC Highlander Ranch. For more information, go to centraltexascattlebaronsball.org.
Enjoy a quiet atmosphere with beautiful river views at the Brazos Landing, located in Waco along the Brazos River across from McLean Stadium. Enjoy homemade dishes like shrimp and grits, chicken piccata, braised short ribs, prime New York steaks, and more. Plus, enjoy a delicious dessert like creme brulee or key lime pie. Open for lunch and dinner Tuesday through Sunday. Brazos Landing in Waco, the only place where I-35 and the Brazos River meet.
Lake Waco Golf Club is a semi-private facility nestled along the north point of Lake Waco, one of the few facilities in Texas to have a full 18-hole regulation golf course as well as an executive 18-hole par 3 golf course. Plus, check out their bar and grill, which is open to the public. And if you're not a golfer, then enjoy time by the pool or even enjoy fishing around Lake Waco. Become a member today and call to book your tee time. Lake Waco Golf Club, where family and friends fun begins. Check them out at lakewacogc.com for more information.
I know you're gonna love this Kodak Dot Plus printer. You guys just connect it to your smartphone and then you're gonna use the Kodak Photo Print app. It's going to print you a 4x6 photo. I am just in awe. I love how these turned out. Also, the printer comes with a free cartridge of 10 photo sheets. I can assure you, you are going to love this printer as much as my family has. You guys have to check it out for yourself.
Farmhound's approach is a little different than a traditional tree company. We get to work with local farmers who are putting everything they can into regenerative farming. From the soil to the animals to the ecosystem. They care about how animals are raised and how we treat the earth. It's not just product, but it's part of that story. It's connected to just a whole lot more.
I'm not touching my microphone anymore. That way, whether it's greenlit during the commercial, I can just be quiet, but I know that it'll be ready to go when I'm ready to go. All of these kinks to work out. But I'm all in. And one of the neatest things is to be able to invite people that I have walked this media journey with. And especially coming off of a Hall of Fame weekend when there were so many tears, emotional moments. Canton is in the spotlight always to start the football season. And I love that. And our next guest on this Monday on All In with Amy Lawrence is a guy who's been there so many years. I'm a little bit jealous, but also has done a lot of work to track the history and the impact of the NFL. So we're pleased to welcome Russell Baxter, who's a longtime NFL writer, insider, historian. Goodness, I could go on and on with your resume, Russ, but mostly I'm just so thankful that we have been friends and colleagues for such a long time.
I was not going to let you get away. And you are just further proof that the good always emerges.
Oh.
Okay. A person with you and other people in this industry who enjoy what they do eventually wind up getting to do it again. And my whole career has been based on passion, love. Never went to college, just watched a lot of football. How the hell did I wind up at ESPN? I still don't know. But one day you'll all know as I write my books, as I get into the latter stages of, I turn 67 next month.
Awesome.
Which I deem the halfway point of my life. Do the math. And within the next couple of years, I have some things I want to write as far as my career, my late mother, different things like that.
Yes.
So, it'll be fun, but it's great to see you and actually see you.
Yes.
For years, I after seeing you in Bristol, I was beginning to wonder if you were a myth. So,
just a voice, right? Not an actual person. So
Just
funny because sometimes people will say to me, "You look nothing like what I expected." I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure if that's a compliment or not. But
right. What does that mean?
Right. So Russell, are you giving us a bit of a scoop here that you're working on a book about your life and career? That's awesome.
Well, that's something I pondered for a long time. My mother always thought I was going to be a writer. She didn't know if I was necessarily going to be a sports writer, but I just wound up combining what I loved about the NFL and some natural. According to my teachers in high school, I had some natural writing skills, blessed with a great memory, and it just all kind of came together. And again, thanks to people like Howie Schwab, Bob Rauscher, support from Tom Jackson and Chris Berman doing NFL primetime for all those years.
Yep.
I had a blast over 2 decades at ESPN. I did Thursday Night Football for CBS 1 year as well. Always find something to write about. There's always something to talk about when it comes to this league. And as you know, I love the history. I've gone to Canton fairly. I didn't make it this year for different reasons, but been going there pretty regularly since 1989 when the ceremony was still on the steps. The first class I saw was Art Shell, Willie Wood, Mel Blount, and Terry Bradshaw. So I was there for what I wouldn't give to stick my hands under Mike Webster's butt one more time, and Terry Bradshaw. And then also to get to see colleagues and people I work with get awards like Chris Berman and Tom Jackson getting the Roselle Award, and other people going into the hall who I worked with like Steve Young. And last year, of course, Sterling Sharp finally getting in, who I worked with 8 years at ESPN, and got a chance for the first time to share that with my family.
Oh, that's amazing. How did they enjoy the experience at Canton?
They're well, you've been around Sterling, okay, and you know what kind of effervescent personality he is.
So charismatic.
He's one of the great people I've ever worked with, and so deserving to go in. A magnificent career. Of course, you'll remember, what a better endorsement from his brother Shannon Sharp talking about him when he went in and saying, "I can honestly say I'm the second best football player in my entire family."
Mm-mm. The sibling stories are amazing. The family reflections that we get. And I was saying on the show to start, we had two ends of the spectrum where Luke Kuechly, because he's so young, had his two grandmothers in attendance on this Hall of Fame weekend.
Right.
They're both in their 90s, but then Roger Craig, he ends up taping his speech, but he also pays tribute to his grandbabies. So I think he said three grandchildren, one who's brand new. And so the two ends of the spectrum, but it always blows me away. And Russ, this happens at Super Bowl week. You see them, the Hall of Famers who are going to be there, converge because that's when the new class announced is that Super Bowl week, and the Gold Jackets dot Radio Row, and they're at some of the big parties. And you feel like there's so many of them when in actuality there aren't even 400 Hall of Famers. Considering the number of men who've played the game, it's such select company. And now the process is even more constrictive and it's more difficult to get into the hall. So yeah, the way the representation and the way that these guys support each other has always been, I feel like, so something that I admired, but so inspirational, because so many of them will mention the thing I miss the most about football is the locker room. It's the camaraderie. It's my teammates. But being part of the Hall of Fame, you have that family for life.
Well, you touched on two very significant points. And to me, the Hall of Fame, and that's Saturday with the speeches and so on, which is amazing. It is about the families, okay? And the sacrifice. These players often acknowledge the sacrifices their families had to make for them to play football. And that's the thing that stands out the most to me, okay? Mothers having to raise children. And everybody's situation is different. But there is a consistent theme with that. Thanking their high school coaches, thanking their college coaches. And you're right, also right. It is getting harder to get in, which, too much tweaking with the rules in terms of, streamlining this and doing this and so on. And I don't understand why they're doing it for one significant reason. You already pointed to the fact that there's less than 400. It's actually 387 now. I was just writing a piece about Steve Smith. So
nice.
The count is now 387. But here's the thing I don't understand, Amy. Pro football in terms of the NFL began in 1920. Okay, it wasn't called the NFL there with exactly then. And then a couple of years later became the National Football League. The Pro Football Hall of Fame's first class was 1963.
Whoa.
That's 43 years. And that's a big gap. To me, they've been playing catch up the whole entire time. The inaugural class, I think, was 17 gentlemen. They did, when they had the anniversary class not long ago, they added a whole bunch of people. But they should be going in the opposite direction in terms of adding people and expanding, because many of these legends from the 30s, the 40s, the 50s, 60s, that's who's getting hurt here, are the guys who get kind of lost in the backwash. There's been kind of more of an emphasis of the modern day. And, and it seems like, if you read what I've read, and I know you have, they've actually kind of made it more difficult for the voters to figure out.
Yeah.
It seems like it's very... I'm not behind those walls. I don't know what discussions. I'd like to be a fly, a fly strip. I'll even be on the wall of that room. Okay, to hear that and hear the debates that go on and so on. But it should be easier now, because there should be a wider pool of people to get in and go back and look. I have a piece coming out. It'll be out at noon today about Steve Smith. Okay, and you look at his numbers. And it's hard to fathom that. Now, he's not, his first year eligibility was 2022. Okay, so he's been eligible for 5 years. He was a finalist in 2025. Okay, so he hasn't waited, like Sterling waited 30 years. Roger Craig waited a long
Leroy
time.
Butler. Leroy Butler waited 10
there's
years,
some,
right?
And what's also fascinating to me is a lot of these guys are very humble. I know they're disappointed. I always go back to Jerry Kramer waited 40 years and he got in, and you really didn't. You never really heard a peep from him. Okay, when he went in, and so on. And Jerry Kramer is part of one of the most iconic teams in NFL history, and one of the most iconic photos in NFL history, with Vince Lombardi on his shoulder after Super Bowl II. So, but again, family, and hearing people talk about their parents and not being able to get through talking about their parents, like I'm having a tough time right now. And so when you think about mom and dad and the sacrifices, and Curtis Martin, if you go back and listen to his speech about his mother and so on, and it's the perspective that these guys have is just wonderful. I missed. I said to a friend the other day, I feel like I'm playing hooky because I didn't make it this year. Okay, but that's all right. be back next year. It'll be another great class. And for people who have never been there, it's come a long way since the first year I went there in 1989. Now there's a Hall of Fame village and all kinds of different
fan
things
fest.
going on. Oh,
my goodness. The NFL turns
tremendous.
Everything into an event now. They're
Yes.
brilliant at it.
Well, keep in mind, the Pro Football Hall of Fame is a separate entity from the National Football League.
Right.
They're kind of on their own. So when I hear people, when they come up with their conspiracy theories about Roger Goodell doesn't want this guy in and that guy in and so on, and I start putting out those Reynolds wrapped, things out on Twitter, Reynolds wrapped gifts for those people who are obviously don't understand that they are a separate entity. It's not the NFL obviously supports what the Pro Football Hall of Fame does, and Roger Goodell attends every year.
Yeah.
And it's obviously they're intertwined in some way. But if you think Roger Goodell is sitting in there with a ballot, okay, well,
you're misguided.
What's a good deal on a bridge?
Nice. So when there are a couple of things that I always know about you that I think are amazing. One is the Hall of Fame and your perspective on that. And so thank you for sharing it. But also every day, and this is even in the throes of the off season, you have this countdown that's so unique on your social media, and you can see it there on the bottom. You can find him on X at Bax Football Guru. There's a lot of other material, links to his articles, though, of course, I want you to tell us where you can find that Steve Smith piece, because I love Steve Smith. But you have these countdowns to either the Hall of Fame or now to kickoff. We're at 30 days, and it's a unique way that you present the countdown with the numbers that correspond to particular athletes and moments in history. You said you have a great memory, but my goodness, that's some incredible research. I always love those, especially when the numbers are ones that I remember specifically.
Well, I try, it's files that I've had stored. I've been doing it for more than 10 years on Twitter. And I also put it on Instagram, and I have a Facebook page called Football Past and Present Seriously, where we deal with modern day as well as history. And no trash talking on that page. We're not a trash talking organization. But I think the thing, Amy, that I get such a kick out of is modern players who are on X follow me and get a big kick out of me, obviously, I guess, retweeting their history and their statistics and so on. And it's a tribute to them. I mean, this is done out of love for the game. And even more so, there are times I hear from players' sons and daughters, okay, or other relatives who appreciate it, like Mike Webster's son. Obviously, Mike left us a long time ago, and so Mike Webster's son will retweet. So I think Ken Riley, when he went in a couple of years ago, his son followed. Mark Mosley, who's not a Hall of Famer, the kicker. Roman Gabriel's son. Again, some of these guys are not Hall of Famers, but they played significant roles in NFL history, and being able to do that, and even the current players who are now retired or even current who will retweet what I do and so on. So I know someone's kind of understanding what I'm trying to do, and they're just short little bios. They're little snippets. I'm not writing a feature and on, but it's just a subtle reminder. I always look to expand it, because as I've done this a couple of years now, you're getting player number changes. We got a lot of zeros now, although I have a policy. I stick with Jim Otto and Ken Burrow when it comes
for
to
your
double
zeros.
zero. Okay. But I know we have some zeros out there, but I've had to expand, Amy. I've had to expand the number one in recent years with Jalen Hurts, Jamar Chase, et cetera, et cetera. But it used to be just Warren Moon for the most part. Okay. So, but it's fun. It's all done for the love of the game.
Absolutely. Well, and it gives a different perspective, because we have such recency bias as members of the media, or especially fans. We remember what we've seen, what we grew up on, or even what's happening now. How often do you hear the hyperbole? Game of the century, greatest game of all time, greatest quarterback. Well, it's hard to actually compare and make those judgments, or even rank, because we love to rank things as fans, if you don't know the history of the game. You talk about families who carry that flag or carry that banner. Clay Matthews has, of course,
yes.
Clay Matthews' son, his, junior, who played in the NFL as well. And then there's Bruce Matthews, who's an uncle. But the family member I know personally is Jennifer, who is the daughter. And she talks about how everybody else plays football, so she talks about it. She has I don't know if it's daily, but weekly campaign. And then when the Hall of Fame induction or the Hall of Fame selection process is going on, she's constantly on social media trying to get tributes from guys who played with Clay Matthews or who played against him, because she is not going to let that go until he gets into the Hall of Fame. So yes, people forget, or if they didn't see the 80s, the 90s, gosh, even farther back, I remember watching Roger Craig play when I was a kid. But some of these guys, I feel like they get forgotten. And so it's neat that their families will carry that on. Now, Jennifer still has her dad here. Clay Matthews is still very much alive, but he's not going to trumpet his own resume and successes to get into the Hall of Fame. So she insists on doing it for him. And I'm so impressed with the fact that families for sure, but that sons and daughters, in some cases, you've got siblings, they'll do it because they believe so powerfully in their relative, and they're not going to let it go. And so it's like the squeaky wheel gets the oil, right? So I hope that that's the case for Clay Matthews and his family.
Well, Jennifer actually follows me on Twitter, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
So, that's when I get the number 57. Obviously, he's certainly one of them. And of course, my friend and colleague Tom Jackson wore number 57. He's not in the Hall of Fame, as a matter of fact, but he's a Hall of Fame human being. That's all you have to need to know about Tommy.
Yes, absolutely. Well, very cool. So where are we going to be able to find this Steve Smith column and some of the other columns and pieces that you're writing?
Well, if you go to my X account, which is Backs Football Guru, the first post on there is one of those, I think it's Canva or whatever it is. It has the link to all 5 sites that I write for. Okay.
Okay.
And I write for something called On SI. And I write for the Panthers, the Chargers, the Bills, and the Seahawks.
Cool.
Which I got very lucky. It was my first year with them last year, Amy, and all 4 of them made the playoffs. Okay. Now, unfortunately, I've not heard from any of those organizations in terms of a bonus, okay, for me getting them into the playoffs. I also write for NFL Spin Zone. I have a series coming out ranking the top acquisitions by position. So at noon today as well,
awesome.
The top 5 quarterback pickups. I'll give you a hint. The Raiders are on there twice. Okay.
Nice. Are we talking, so it could be draft or free agency then?
Draft or free acquisitions. Okay.
Gotcha.
It can be a trade. It can be free agency. It can be the draft. It's a new face in a new place, basically.
Cool.
So, but if you go on Backs Football Guru, I'm a one-stop shopping person. I don't like having to search all over the place for stuff. So I try to make it easy for other people to find my stuff as well. So.
Well, awesome. So I will definitely check that out. Like I said, huge Steve Smith fan. And he was out posting videos of Luke, or about Luke, stories about Luke, because he was going into the Hall of Fame this weekend. So Russ, it's awesome to talk to you. Awesome to see you as well. Thank you so much for a couple of minutes. And we will definitely make this a regular feature during football season when you have time.
I think I'm in touch with that emotion. There you go.
Very good. Talk to you soon, Russ. Thank you.
All
and
right.
Make sure you find him.
Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you. I appreciate it. At Backs Football Guru. And yeah, it's really neat every day, whether it's off season or whether it's during the regular season. He's got numbers that are counting down to a specific event. In this case, it's kickoff, which is how I know it's 30 days to get to the start of the NFL season. And he weaves in the history, this jersey number or this moment, this date in history. So it's pretty amazing. And yes, it is something that a lot of the families of players appreciate, or even current players, recently retired players themselves. So that's awesome. Here's one of the things I love about doing a show on YouTube that starts on the internet is I don't have to worry about the clock as much. We're after the top of the hour, but it's just a gauge. It's a suggestion, if you will. So thanks for hanging out with us, checking out your comments on the live YouTube stream. We're already halfway through, which is nuts. So still want to share some of my favorite moments from Hall of Fame weekend in Canton, and also would love to hear from you at A-Law Radio. It's All In with Amy Lawrence on YouTube and the Rogue Media Network.
Enjoy a quiet atmosphere with beautiful river views at the Brazos Landing, located in Waco along the Brazos River across from McLean Stadium. Enjoy homemade dishes like shrimp and grits, chicken piccata, braised short ribs, prime New York steaks, and more. Plus, enjoy a delicious dessert like creme brulee or key lime pie. Open for lunch and dinner Tuesday through Sunday. Brazos Landing in Waco, the only place where I-35 and the Brazos River meet.
Lake Waco Golf Club is a semi-private facility nestled along the north point of Lake Waco, one of the few facilities in Texas to have a full 18-hole regulation golf course as well as an executive 18-hole par 3 golf course. Plus, check out their bar and grill, which is open to the public. And if you're not a golfer, then enjoy time by the pool or even enjoy fishing around Lake Waco. Become a member today and call to book your tee time. Lake Waco Golf Club, where family and friends fun begins. Check them out at lakewacogc.com for more information.
Farmhound's approach is a little different than a traditional treat company. We get to work with local farmers who are putting everything they can into regenerative farming. From the soil to the animals to the ecosystem. They care about how animals are raised and how we treat the earth. It's not just product, but it's part of that story. It's connected to just a whole lot more.
Tervis is all about staying hydrated with style and durability. You can trust Tervis tumblers to keep your drinks the perfect temperature, hot or cold, for hours. From the classic insulated tumblers to sleek stainless steel water bottles, each product is built to last and comes in endless designs to match your personality. Stay refreshed and express yourself with Tervis. Visit tervis.com today and find your perfect tumbler.
I did it again. Oh my gosh. See, when I'm in a radio studio and I start talking before turning the mic on, you can't see that. When I make a mistake and I grimace or I get upset at myself in a radio studio, you can't see it. So I need some kind of an emoji or GIF or meme when I make a stupid mistake to throw it up on screen, but I can't really hide. Not that I need to hide necessarily, but I'm very expressive. Not only do I talk with my hands, but I do not have a poker face. And so I get frustrated. Not only do I not have the ability to correct mistakes without being on camera. And who's perfect all the time? Not me, obviously. Last week with the bug flying around my face to wrap up the show, I've sent that to a few of my family and friends. I still look at it and crack up because I'm just trying to get out of the show gracefully. And instead I've got this buzz of this bug that's flying around my face, and I can't help it. It's involuntary. So I'm trying to swat it away, and that's how we end the show. But also, like I said, when I make a mistake, as I sometimes do, it's going to happen probably once a show. Let's hope we can limit it to just once a show. I see that frustration with myself or anger, I get mad at myself and it crosses my face. And yeah, that's great on video too. So at least I've learned the dogs are not allowed in studio while I'm actually doing the show, because can't take a risk that we'll have more retching in the background. Not in week number 2, because that's where we are. Week number 2. Thanks for finding us on YouTube, but also for finding us on the podcast, your favorite platform, whether it's Spotify, whether it's Apple. Hey, producer Zach, I don't know where you get your favorite podcasts, if it's Spotify. What are some other platforms that we can direct people to when it comes to finding the podcast version of the show after the fact? Because I feel like I'm not an Apple person, but a lot of people are. So they get their podcast that way. That's how my husband gets his podcast. But we also love Spotify. What are some other common ones? Do we know of any other ones that I'm not listing?
I feel like Google actually has its own podcast thing now
Does it?
too. I think
Okay.
so,
Are we on
yeah.
that one?
Yeah, no, that's it's easier here. Let me look up because I'm also an Apple and Spotify guy, and I know that that's where they are, but it should be anywhere you can get, you can find podcasts, you can find us.
So it's funny because our boss, Corey, sent me a text over the weekend. We were just talking about the show in the first week, and he said something about your RSS tag that will allow people to find you anywhere. I had to ask him what that meant because I have no idea. But he did say it's a unique identifier, and I liken it to a VIN number on my car, Princess Leia. She's the only one with that VIN number. So we have our own RSS tag now, and that means people can find us. But yes, whatever your podcast platform, and if you're watching
Amazon
the show,
has one too. There you go.
Ooh, there we go. Okay, so Amazon, Google, Spotify, Apple, all of the ways that you find the podcast that you love, please add ours to your queue or your library. So Spotify has a library, and you can add it to the library. I hope you had a great weekend. As much as I was really excited about the Hall of Fame speeches, which took place on Saturday, and then also the gold jacket ceremonies, which are really neat. Those are very emotional. Those take place on Friday night. The NFL has changed its format as they do. They're constantly tweaking to try to get the most exposure. Also happening this weekend was the Ice Bucket Challenge among the Hall of Famers. So if you haven't seen it, and I don't have my X open right now, but I can certainly open it. It's not that hard to find. I left it logged in, but I did close it just in case it was too many windows that were open. But I'm going to go back and I'm going to retweet what I saw this weekend that made me laugh out loud. So I was working on SiriusXM on both Thursday and Friday nights, and this popped up on Friday. Okay, so sharing it right now on X. It's the commissioner, Roger Goodell, doing the Ice Bucket Challenge. It's hysterical, not because of the challenge itself. I mean, it's sobering, but it's also, I think, done in a fun way to raise awareness. For those of you who did the Ice Bucket Challenge going back, say, 10, 11, 12 years ago, I did that, and it was friggin' cold. And I actually don't even remember who dumped the bucket of ice on me. I either asked a neighbor or a friend, but I don't remember who it was. I didn't dump it on myself, I don't think. I'll have to go back and watch. Anyway, I remember where I was, so I know it was about 12 years ago for me. Well, there's a new iteration of the Ice Bucket Challenge because of Chris Johnson and his recent revelation that he's been diagnosed with ALS. And so this wave, because it is like that, it's like the wave in a stadium where one section does it and then they challenge the next section and it continues to go. This wave reached Hall of Fame weekend, and Roger Goodell sat down, and I'm assuming this was in Canton because I also saw the same setting for Bill Cowher. But with Roger Goodell, it was Emmitt Smith and it was Thurman Thomas, two Hall of Fame running backs in honor of Chris Johnson. And they had 2 buckets of ice filled to the very top. These were industrial buckets, 2 buckets of ice filled to the top with water and ice. And he let out a word that made everybody else around him laugh because he didn't just sit there stoic. He was frozen and he exclaimed a word that I will not say here on the show. But then compared to Bill Cowher didn't blink. He just sat there. He got dumped on with the cold water and ice, and then he got up like a Hall of Fame coach should and went about his business. I don't think he even uttered a word. Anyway, it dawned on me how many players in the league would love to dump buckets of ice water on the commissioner's head. So I laughed out loud at that one and shared it. So you can check it out at A-Law Radio. So there were some lighthearted moments as well. There's some really neat moments where the Hall of Famers were thanking their families, or in Adam Vinatieri's case, paying tribute to football, which was neat. So we'll incorporate a few more of those as we head through this final hour, next hour, second hour. That's weird to say. I mean, it's half the time of what I do on Sirius XM or even on my former show, After Hours with Amy Lawrence. But Zach, as we're talking about the weekend, I followed through. My husband and I went to see Spider-Man Brand New Day after Spidey made a cameo here on the show. We went to see the movie in IMAX. And here's how we had to do it, because I'm not a huge Marvel or Avengers gal. I haven't seen a lot of those movies. There's so many of them. I think it kind of makes my brain swell just because I can't keep up with all of the storylines. But I did do a Google search and we found out which movies we needed to watch or what we needed to know going into Spider-Man Brand New Day. And on Saturday, after being outside in the heat and the humidity and being pooped from the lawn mowing, the yard work, we sat down and we watched Spider-Man No Way Home so that we could kind of see the setup to this new movie. And it really did help. Now, there were a couple of people in the new movie, Brand New Day, that I didn't know. And I asked my husband, who's that? Do you know who that is? And so that kind of helped to fill in the blanks. But as it turned out, just watching No Way Home really prepared me. And I will tell you that as soon as we got out of the theater, because of where now I'm not going to give you any spoilers because it's still in the theater, because of where they left Brand New Day, because where they ended Brand New Day, there are very much kind of these cliffhangers, but also open-ended questions that aren't answered at the end of this movie. And so I right away Googled, we got in the truck and I Googled, will there be another Spider-Man movie, Tom Holland? But I didn't even get through that search because as I was typing it up, it populated on my Google search, the search line. And it was clear that pretty much every other person who would come out of the theater wanted to know the same thing. So as it turns out, yes, they do plan to answer some of these open-ended questions. It was a terrific view in IMAX, a lot of action, incredible moments where with the technology, they could give you these perspectives of, say, Spider-Man flying through New York, or some of the action, the fights sequences. I don't want to give anything away, but the perspectives from up high, the bird's eye view, or from inside the fight type of thing. As much as I have a love-hate relationship with AI and I'm a little bit nervous about AI, the video technology that movie theaters and even streaming platforms can employ now is incredible. And so, yeah, I think my favorite parts of the movie, just from a technology standpoint, were seeing him fly through New York, the buildings, and of course, almost hitting the ground before he's able to shoot out another web and catch himself. Some of those moments from up top, the bird's eye view, whoa, that was incredible. And it almost would give you vertigo if you're subject to that. And then I will also say this, again, without giving anything away, there's a plot that sucks you in and that keeps you guessing. And there are cameos that I wasn't expecting as well. So some I had to ask my husband about. I didn't know if they were significant in the past. Think Tom Holland is a great Spider-Man. For those of you who've seen No Way Home, because there's a Far From Home and there's a No Way Home. For those of you who've seen No Way Home, you know that Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire are also in that one, and it's kind of the multi-universe. And so it's a little bit of a complex plot, but there are the really cool cameos, even bringing back some of the villains that I loved. And so this one, it's different. The cameos are different, but it is, yeah, it's neat to see still that he's got people that he will reach out to and call on, even though going back to the last movie, he'd asked Doctor Strange to wipe out any memory of Peter Parker as Spider-Man. So that kind of sets the plot, but it's great action. It's awesome in IMAX. And also I love popcorn. So it was a great Sunday. I highly recommend, even if you're like me and you hadn't seen the last couple Tom Holland Spider-Man movies, just watch No Way Home and it really sets it up for you. So Zach, you haven't seen it, right? I think you had told me you hadn't seen the new one yet.
I haven't seen the new one yet. I had seen all the other. I guess this is the fourth one. Leading up to it. I think so.
The
Funny
fourth
enough,
one or fifth one? Wait, Homecoming, Far From Home, No Way Home, and now Brand New Day. Okay, but there are apparently 2 more coming. That's what I've seen and read.
I saw that they're potentially working on a 5th one. Yeah. No, I haven't seen just the newest one. I've seen the other 3, and funny enough, I rewatched the first one yesterday because to me, I love Michael Keaton as a bad guy, and it's still so much. But no, I'm stoked, and everybody I've talked to obviously loves it. I'm just gonna have to find some time to hopefully do it to see it. I would enjoy seeing it in theaters, but I guess if I have to, I can wait till it comes out to stream at home. I mean, it's only 30 days now. I feel like it used to be a lot longer. Yeah, but no, I'm glad you enjoyed it, and I was interested to see like which movie that you would watch to prepare for it. So I'm glad that Brand New or No Way Home got you ready for.
It did. It did. It really drove kind of home the conflict between Peter Parker and Spider-Man, and they continued that theme all the way through. Can he remain Spider-Man but also be Peter Parker? And certainly that's a question. And one of the things I appreciate that are very different from, say, Star Wars, one of the things I love about the superheroes and the comic, whether it's DC or whether it's Marvel, is that there is always that conflict between being a regular person and having a normal life, which isn't really possible when you have a superhero power. And it's part of the Spider-Man verse. And I think regardless of which Spider-Man, it's one that a theme that's carried through is with great power comes great responsibility. And it's another version of what is a Bible verse: to whom much is given, much is required. And so I loved that because, yeah, when you have a gift, you need to use it to, whether it's protect or take care of the world around you. And you can't just sit on it or bury it, as it were. And he's also a kid. And I say a kid, not because Tom Holland is a kid, though, if I remember correctly,
he's in his
30.
early 30s.
Yeah, he's maybe, and he and Zendaya just got married too, which
was
is amazing.
Also weird though to watch the first one because like Tony Stark makes a quip of like I brought in a 14-year-old boy and he goes, I'm 15, and I'm sitting there thinking, I was like, no, you're probably like 27, but still okay.
But I mean, he is relatively young though,
Yes,
and so for him to be growing up and kind of wrestling with this as a youth, I think there's so much of the parallel. When you're famous and you have success early, it also changes your life in a way that you really can't go backward. And it's a wrestle, or it's a constant struggle, I should say, and a constant wrestling with how do I maintain privacy versus how do I promote what I'm doing, because I want to have a relationship with fans so they keep coming back and they enjoy the movies in this case. And I sometimes tell people I'm Z-list famous. I hate even using that word. I'm Z-list public figure, right? Like so far down, there are so many people who have no idea who I am, and that's awesome. But it is a challenge and a question for me on a regular basis. How do I protect the people I love by maintaining privacy? How much do I tell people? How much do I keep to myself? And one of those things that people kind of tease me for or even criticize me for is never sharing photos of my husband. That's a decision we made together. When we become parents, it's another decision that we will make together. But I found that on the internet, nothing ever goes away. So if you really want to maintain your privacy, it's my choice to be a public figure, but I want to protect my family. So yeah, as I've gotten older too and dealt with some stalkers, I've kind of backed up even more from that to the point where, yeah, really only my mom and my brother are the ones I'll share photos of. And I kind of feel like I've got to protect them with, 6 or 7 degrees just to be sure. But yeah, it definitely is a struggle in my own life too, on a much smaller scale.
But it's something though that you can then kind of relate to in a sense and understand. I mean, I feel like there's, especially in this business, like you talked about, like wanting to keep those around you safe. Like it's one thing then to like kind of put yourself out there, but then you also have to worry about not only you, but like your significant other, your family, your all that. And so, yeah, no, I totally get that. And I also think, just to bring it back, is that's always one of the best things about Spider-Man. I did want to ask you, just because you hadn't, now that you've seen Tom Holland as Spider-Man.
Yes.
Like, where does he rank for you amongst the other Spider-Man?
I think he's brilliant at it. I really do enjoy the way that he brings kind of the quirky and the kind and also just the goofy and nerdy. And the moments, again, I cannot give anything away, but the emotional moments, the exchanges with the people in his life who've previously forgotten him, he nails those. So yeah, the physical, it almost seems like he's going to get beat up, right? Because he's a slight figure, and all of the actors they've chosen are relatively lean and slight. So you always worry about them getting broken, like physically broken. He plays that to a T as well, because it's another one of those movies where he does get really beat up and lots of bumps and bruises. But he's so genuine and he's so authentic that you forget it's Tom Holland, which I think is critical, right? If you can forget that you're watching a famous actor who, by the way, is in other movies right now. He's in The Odyssey.
Yeah.
If you can forget that it's him, then I feel like he's doing his job. And he does a really good job at that. He nails both the physical and the cool feats of strength, but he also is brilliant in those moments that are personal and quiet and private. And yeah, I mean, I've cried during both of them now. I watched No Way Home and I bawled at the end, and now cried in the theater watching Brand New Day. So it got me all up in my feels. Yes, it's worth it. He's very good at it.
Okay, and then I will let you know then after I see it too, but it's for sure on my list and I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome. Very cool. All right, so as we head through the rest of the show, you've got my Spider-Man review with, I hope, no spoilers, but it was totally worth for us. It was a full day out, but we really enjoyed it. It was totally worth going and seeing it in IMAX. I can't wait to hear some of your reviews as well at A-Law Radio. Love to get your comments here on YouTube. But the show was also, the weekend, this show is also about the Hall of Fame speeches and the moment and the fact that, man, Hall of Fame launches us forward into football season. It is coming. A couple of favorite Drew Brees moments. Again, you want to talk about teary and emotional. He nailed it when it came to paying tribute to his adopted city of New Orleans. So we'll get into that coming up. It's All In with Amy Lawrence. My thanks to Waco Surf and their partnership. And as the summer dwindles, the heat hasn't dwindled, so it's still necessary. Find the water, take a vacation to Waco Surf. You can stay in the hotel. You can park your RV. I even told Mom about it this weekend because it's not that far for her. Because, yeah, school is starting soon in the South if it hasn't already. And it's time to, I was going to say milk, but it's a water park. So it's time to squeeze the last bit of water that you can out of the summer. And we also appreciate the partnership here on All In with Amy Lawrence, YouTube, and Rogue Media Network.
Lake Waco Golf Club is a semi-private facility nestled along the north point of Lake Waco, one of the few facilities in Texas to have a full 18-hole regulation golf course as well as an executive 18-hole par 3 golf course. Plus, check out their bar and grill, which is open to the public. And if you're not a golfer, then enjoy time by the pool or even enjoy fishing around Lake Waco. Become a member today and call to book your tee time. Lake Waco Golf Club, where family and friends fun begins. Check them out at lakewacogc.com for more information.
Summer isn't over yet. Make every last splash count at Waco Surf. Catch perfect waves, float the lazy river, or relax on the beach while the kids make unforgettable memories. Stay in their hotel or private cabins, or hook up with your RV. Located just 90 miles from Dallas and Austin, set on 450 acres in the heart of Texas, Waco Surf is unlike any other water park around. Before school starts, give your family one more epic adventure. WacoSurf.com. Book your stay today and catch a wave.
It's the premier charity event of the year, the 2026 Central Texas Cattle Barons Ball, presented by Ascension Provident. A fun evening filled with great food and drink, dancing, a spectacular auction, and more. This year's theme is Nashville Nights, Neon Lights, and Bullfights. Get your tickets now, donate, or be a sponsor. Help support the American Cancer Society to find a cure. The 2026 Central Texas Cattle Barons Ball, October 24th at MCC Highlander Ranch. For more information, go to centraltexascattlebaronsball.org.
Enjoy a quiet atmosphere with beautiful river views at the Brazos Landing, located in Waco along the Brazos River across from McLean Stadium. Enjoy homemade dishes like shrimp and grits, chicken piccata, braised short ribs, prime New York steaks, and more. Plus, enjoy a delicious dessert like creme brulee or key lime pie. Open for lunch and dinner Tuesday through Sunday. Brazos Landing in Waco, the only place where I-35 and the Brazos River meet.
For 75 years, Nalgene Outdoor has been your trusted companion, fueling adventures and helping protect the planet. We're committed to reducing waste, improving access to clean water, and providing simple, safe, and sustainable products for you and your family. No gimmicks, just durable, well-designed bottles built to last. Join us in our mission to amplify life, not complicate it. Because at Nalgene, what goes into our bottles matters as much as the adventures they fuel. Explore more at nalgene.com. That's NALGENE.com.
When you learn a language with Babbel, you start a journey that takes you further and further. Anytime and anywhere you wish. It's easy and fun. Broadens your horizons and keeps your brain fit. A journey into new thoughts, new cultures, new adventures. So what are you waiting for? Start your journey with Babbel now. Go to babbel.com or download the app.
Even as we're looking back and reflecting on Hall of Fame weekend and some of the moments that stood out to me, there is news in football and some news that happened over the weekend, which really the biggest goal, if I'm a football coach, which I'm not, but even as a football fan, overall, just wanting football to be at its best when they break camp, get into their final preseason action, and then, of course, kick off the season, you got to avoid the injuries. That's the biggest thing. And whenever there is an injury, if it's significant and it takes a guy out for a good portion of the season, it feels like such a thud. And for fans who have great hope and they believe that this could be a year, whether for a turnaround or to be a contender or, okay, finally, could be our year, to have an injury that definitely impacts your team coming out of camp can be so frustrating and so upsetting, discouraging before you even get out of the gate. Well, I know the Commanders are in a place where they want to prove that the NFC Championship game, their NFC Championship appearance, not last season, but coming out of 2025. Coming out of 2024. It used to be that the football season was all contained in one calendar year, but that is not the case anymore. So there will be times where I'm talking about a particular playoffs and I'm mentioning the regular season, even though the playoffs were in the following year. That's kind of how they do it. But when you're putting a year stamp on a Super Bowl, then it gets really confusing because the season was 25, but the Super Bowl was 26. So going back to the 24 season, when the Commanders made the NFC Championship, there was this excitement, unlike what we'd seen from the DC Metro in years, because they are football diehards and football drives the bus there. They have iconic Hall of Famers and Super Bowl champions in their past. But in recent years, the Commanders had gotten to the point where the stadium would be empty. I remember even one commander saying, this is not that long ago, maybe 6 seasons ago or so, that he was embarrassed on game days in their own stadium because they would have more fans for the other team. Kind of like the Vegas Raiders, right? Or even sometimes in LA, though not for the Rams, more for the Chargers. And so it would be embarrassing to them because there would be more fans for the other team. And their fans, of course, would boo or be upset or just not want to pay the money for the tickets. But then drafting Jaden Daniels after what was a revolving door at QB, making a coaching change, feeling like they had the right formula and the right leadership in place, and they have that unforgettable NFC playoff game against the top seed Detroit Lions. And what was it? 5 interceptions by Jared Goff. So many turnovers that Commanders defense was in prime form. They get to the NFC Championship, and really most people believe, whether inside the football fraternity or out, that the Commanders are a year or two even ahead of schedule. But then last season, a bit of a thud, right? A letdown. I don't believe in sophomore slumps necessarily, but they had a ton of injuries and a few changes as well. But it really had a lot to do with the injuries that they sustained and just the fact that defensive coordinators around the NFL, once they've got a resume or that's funny to say. They've got a reel, they've got some tape, if you will, on a particular quarterback. They know more how to defend against him, and they feel like they've also got, like the tools. So offensive coordinators, once Jaden Daniels grows and learns and expands to the pro game, his offensive coordinators feel like they are better equipped to put him in positions to succeed. But that's also the case with the D coordinators and the defenders. They get paid a ton of money too. So it was part of that. It was also feeling like they were limited in terms of their offensive options. So we'll see what they do in this third year of Jaden Daniels. I know Stephon Diggs is excited to be there and be their wide receiver 2 opposite Terry McLaurin or Scary Terry. But their star left tackle, Laramie Tunsil, just suffered a torn tricep over the weekend. And unfortunately, he's going to miss significant time. Coach Dan Quinn not giving any sure timetable or real timetable because they won't know until the surgery is done. But yeah, that's hard. I mean, that's a major blow along their offensive line, especially if you're trying to protect a young quarterback and give him time to go through his progressions and make the right throw or the right decision at the line. So that's a tough one. Instead, they'll go to Brandon Coleman as their starting left tackle. And this is a different type of injury, but I know that I want to hear from Kyle Shanahan, so we'll probably get to it on our Tuesday show since we won't have time for it today. But he actually was at the podium on Saturday as part of Niners training camp for the first time since the accident not quite a month ago. It was July 14th. I remember it because it was my brother's birthday. Shanahan has since claimed responsibility. If you've not seen or heard the details, he was in a Tesla that was in self-driving mode, and he reached for his phone. I've actually got a personal friend who has a brand new Tesla that drives her 2 hours away to a particular doctor that she needs to see. She's got a problem with her eyes, and so she has trouble seeing, which means she can't drive on her own. And so for years now, her husband has been taking her to the doctor's appointments. Now, because she's got this self-driving vehicle, she can go to and from the doctor's appointments herself. And as soon as she told me that, I kind of got a pang of worry and angst over it because I'm not sure I would trust self-driving cars. It's not the company, it's more about technology and knowing that technology is programmed by humans and technology is not perfect. And there have been some pretty serious accidents connected to self-driving vehicles. So I said now, and maybe I'll change someday in the future, but I can't ever imagine not controlling the car that I'm driving in. I don't ever want to get a self-driving vehicle. Maybe someday, maybe it's 10 years down the road, 20 years down the road, we're all Jetsons or we're all part of the Jetsons and the vehicles, they fly or they hover. I love Star Wars. They've got hovercraft. We'll see, but I'm a bit of a control freak. I'm not even a good passenger. You could ask my husband. I don't ride well. I generally like to be the one who's driving. I'm a control freak when it comes to the driving. It's not so much that I don't trust other people that are driving my car. It's more about I don't trust the other drivers on the road. And man, you drive in New York City or some major metro long enough and you'll understand. In New York, I got hit 5 different times. And so I was very liberal with the horn. And so I don't know that I'd be comfortable in a self-driving vehicle. But Kyle Shanahan indicates that he was behind the wheel, self-driving mode was engaged in his Tesla, and he's not sure if the technology malfunctioned or as he reached for his phone, he has indicated maybe he accidentally turned off self-driving mode and that caused the accident. So he doesn't know, but a really tough and painful lesson to learn. He had a concussion, 3 broken ribs, and a broken left hand. And because he's still dealing with some of the fallout and some of the ramifications, the side effects from his concussion, he can't actually or hasn't been able to be outside in the sun or be part of the practices for long periods of time. Instead, he's devoting more time to film study and the one-on-one with fellow coaches and players. But yeah, really really scary. I do, and I've said this before, I do appreciate that he took responsibility because initially, whether it was an error by law enforcement or it was a flat out lie on the police report, I don't know why they would do that. So I'm not indicating that I think they fudged it, but that initially the police report wasn't correct about the fact that he was at fault for the accident. So he has stood up and in front of the microphones, he has taken accountability and taken responsibility for the accident, and not blame the technology, saying he's not sure if that's the case, but definitely will want you to hear from him on tomorrow's show and see how he looks. And he says he should be ready for the start of the regular season, but kind of one of those moments where you think, man, that could have gone off the rails in a completely different way. And thankfully, he's still able to coach and his family still has a husband and a father. So yeah, injury news is always a part of this time of the year, though you hope it's not a coach or an athlete who gets into an accident. Larry Fitzgerald, Drew Brees, I think I appreciated because of the fact that I spent so much time talking about them over the last 20 years of my career. I really appreciated their speeches and their stories. They were very different. If I got this right, Drew's was the second longest. Would you believe that the kicker, Adam Vinatieri, was the longest? So a few more of my favorite moments, emotional, but also funny, from Hall of Fame weekend as we head up toward the top of the hour here on All In with Amy Lawrence, YouTube, and Rogue Media Network.
Summer isn't over yet. Make every last splash count at Waco Surf. Catch perfect waves, float the lazy river, or relax on the beach while the kids make unforgettable memories. Stay in their hotel or private cabins, or hook up with your RV. Located just 90 miles from Dallas and Austin, set on 450 acres in the heart of Texas, Waco Surf is unlike any other water park around. Before school starts, give your family one more epic adventure. WacoSurf.com. Book your stay today and catch a wave.
It's the premier charity event of the year, the 2026 Central Texas Cattle Barons Ball, presented by Ascension Provident. A fun evening filled with great food and drink, dancing, a spectacular auction, and more. This year's theme is Nashville Nights, Neon Lights, and Bullfights. Get your tickets now, donate, or be a sponsor. Help support the American Cancer Society to find a cure. The 2026 Central Texas Cattle Barons Ball, October 24th at MCC Highlander Ranch. For more information, go to centraltexascattlebaronsball.org.
Enjoy a quiet atmosphere with beautiful river views at the Brazos Landing, located in Waco along the Brazos River across from McLean Stadium. Enjoy homemade dishes like shrimp and grits, chicken piccata, braised short ribs, prime New York steaks, and more. Plus, enjoy a delicious dessert like creme brulee or key lime pie. Open for lunch and dinner Tuesday through Sunday. Brazos Landing in Waco, the only place where I-35 and the Brazos River meet.
Lake Waco Golf Club is a semi-private facility nestled along the north point of Lake Waco, one of the few facilities in Texas to have a full 18-hole regulation golf course as well as an executive 18-hole par 3 golf course. Plus, check out their bar and grill, which is open to the public. And if you're not a golfer, then enjoy time by the pool or even enjoy fishing around Lake Waco. Become a member today and call to book your tee time. Lake Waco Golf Club, where family and friends fun begins. Check them out at lakewacogc.com for more information.
I know you're gonna love this Kodak Dot Plus printer. You guys just connect it to your smartphone and then you're gonna use the Kodak Photo Print app. It's going to print you a 4x6 photo. I am just in awe. I love how these turned out. Also, the printer comes with a free cartridge of 10 photo sheets. I can assure you, you are going to love this printer as much as my family has. You guys have to check it out for yourself.
Farmhound's approach is a little different than a traditional treat company. We get to work with local farmers who are putting everything they can into regenerative farming. From the soil to the animals to the ecosystem. They care about how animals are raised and how we treat the earth. It's not just product, but it's part of that story. It's connected to just a whole lot more.
energy, the excitement, and the pride that swept through the city. And Peyton, thank you for generously donating your forehead for today's teleprompter. A gigantic forehead means a big brain, and your football IQ is unmatched, buddy. The way you managed the offense, the team, everything in the entire organization was incredible. Your leadership led this team to greatness. Most people know Peyton for his football mind, but I was lucky enough to know the person behind the helmet. He's a great teammate, a great friend, and someone who truly cared about everyone in the locker room. I'm thankful our paths crossed, and I'm proud of everything we accomplished together.
So Adam Vinatieri was the longest speech on Hall of Fame weekend, Hall of Fame Saturday, which I thought was interesting, but he did have the longest career, right? So he had the most people to thank. He essentially had 2 Hall of Fame careers with the Patriots and with the Colts. Then after the fact, he was part of the Colts winning their first ever Super Bowl as a franchise. And he did have the daughter of Jim Irsay, who's now in charge of the franchise, welcome him onto stage and help him take the cover off of his bust. And he was effusive in his praise of course, Bob Kraft and the Patriots organization, but also of the Irsay family. And I thought a couple of notes. He was a jokester. He made some jokes that people maybe cringed at, laughed at, but also wondered at. So I had people come to me on social and say, there are Patriots fans who are offended on Bill Belichick's behalf that there was a joke about Bill judging a cheerleading competition as a nod to his much younger girlfriend who used to be a cheerleader, or maybe still is. I don't know. Anyway, I feel like as much as the joke was eyebrow raising, it's been told before. It's not like Adam was the only one ever to make a reference about Belichick's 20-something-year-old girlfriend. But he did go on to say that Belichick is the greatest coach of all time. And some of you may have wondered why Belichick wasn't there. Well, remember, he was not a first ballot Hall of Famer, right? He was on the ballot, same ballot with Drew Brees and Larry Fitzgerald, who did get in as first ballot guys. Well, Belichick didn't. And in my opinion, and I think in the probably the prevailing opinion of most in the football community, it was a major snub and a major misfire by the Hall of Fame voters not to have him in there as a first ballot guy. So the process is very stringent now. It's different. There are limitations on the numbers of athletes who can go in, athletes and coaches and presenters, contributors, that kind of thing. And so the process resulted in Belichick missing out in his first year. If he's not a first ballot Hall of Famer, I guess I don't know the definition. So he was not there, but also he's busy with UNC football. And so, sure, it was a joke. It wasn't a unique joke, whatever. Vinatieri was very complimentary about him, about Bob Kraft, about Tom Brady, and of course, about Peyton Manning, who you see there. And I wonder too, about all the various Hall of Fame guys. Some were wearing their jackets. Some were wearing short sleeve shirts. I don't know how hot it was there, but I can imagine those gold jackets. They can get to be a lot after the fact. Thanks for hanging out with us. Some of you are commenting about Hall of Fame weekend. There were 2 that I've left now for the last segment here on the show. Larry Fitzgerald, very poignant. As a dad, he had his son Devin introduce him, and his son is now at Notre Dame playing football, but it was supposed to be his dad who introduced him. It was supposed to be his dad who was up there on stage with him unveiling his bust, but his dad passed away in June, and his mom had passed away going back when he was a teenager in high school. And so I was really blown away by the number of men who inside the football fraternity, already Hall of Famers, took Larry as a young man, whether in his college or his pro football days, and guided him and offered him brothers, father figures. I mean, he had his dad until recently, but men who were friends who made sure that he walked the right road and challenged him and pushed him. He had so many people to thank, and many of them are already Hall of Famers. So he started out as a ball boy with the Minnesota Vikings, which is kind of neat. He ended up crossing paths with Vikings Hall of Famers and others even before he was in the NFL, and then a 20-year career. And he even says now, I'll never retire. I don't use that word. I just take on a different role. And so when he got to the end, after talking about his dad, his brother Marcus was there, and his brother was in tears as Larry was sharing about his parents and losing their dad. And then he turned and started speaking to his sons. Devin was still on stage because he had introduced him. His two younger sons were there in the crowd, and he had a very special message, for his sons and for them believing that now his most critical role is dad.
Traffic on the extra mile in life. Bring others along with you. Don't just pursue excellence for yourself. Help others pursue it too. That's the part of this story that matters the most. It's not the likes, it's not the follows, it's not the fame, but the people you travel with, the values you uphold. And in the end, it's not just about excellence, it's about the people who you help get there. Thank you all from the bottom of my heart, and may God bless you all.
Yeah, he had a really neat message to his sons about surrounding yourself with the people who don't tell you what you want to hear, but they tell you what you need to hear. And then it got clipped there at the beginning, but I loved and I'd not heard this phrase before, though, of course, you will hear other adages or cliches that are similar to this. But what he said was, there's never much traffic on the extra mile in life. And that's where we picked it up, and you see his sons there. But going the extra mile very often means you outdistance those, whether they're teammates or whether competition. If you work harder, you will, in fact, set yourself apart. So there's never much traffic on the extra mile in life. I thought that was really powerful, and I wrote it down and I remembered it. And man, I may bring it back in my own career, or maybe use it someday when I'm mentoring or teaching students. So saving Drew Brees for last, and I see some of you have told me that you think that Drew Brees, his Hall of Fame speech was the best you've ever heard. He was awesome. He told so many stories from his career, but what stood out to me is the message he had for the city of New Orleans.
New Orleans. When we bought our home in the heart of uptown New Orleans, Brittany and I could not have been more excited and scared to embark on this new journey and chapter in our lives. As we were moving in, containers of housewarming gifts began to show up at the front door. As I opened the lid to the first container, expecting to see brownies or perhaps chocolate chip cookies, it was rather the smell of butter and onions and Cajun seasoning and a dark roux that made up crawfish etouffee. The next day it was jambalaya, the next it was gumbo, and we're not talking a small container, we're talking a big vat of the best home-cooked Louisiana flavors you could imagine. Welcome to New Orleans. But nothing compares to what we experienced every Monday night during my career in New Orleans. For 15 years straight, and this is no exaggeration, our neighbors, Steve and Kathy Price, would make our family red beans and rice and cornbread. Whether it was their house, our house, or with great friends like Trombone Shorty, it was what we all look forward to together. It was the perfect representation of what New Orleans is all about. It doesn't take you long to realize what makes New Orleans so special. New Orleans has been through a lot, to the point where in some cases the feeling was we may have lost everything. It may never come back the same. Storms teach us that our greatest treasures aren't the things that we own. They're the people we love and the way we show up for one another. It reminds us to hold our loved ones a little closer, to love a little harder, to laugh a little louder, and to never take a single day for granted. Sometimes it takes losing what can be replaced to truly appreciate the things that can't. New Orleans. You accepted me. You embraced me. You believed in me. But more importantly, you trusted me with the soul of the city. And I would have died to protect that calling. The greatest teams in sports are the ones who accept the responsibility of being true representations of their city, country, community. I speak for all of my Saints teammates when I say that's what we were inspired to do every day for you. If you love New Orleans, it'll love you back. To the Who Dat Nation. There are a few events in your life where you remember exactly where you were when it occurred. For Saints fans, it is the Steve Gleason block punt on Monday Night Football, reopening the Dome September 25th, 2006. And when the Saints won Super Bowl 44. It was your spirit that allowed us to be special, to smell greatness, and to finish strong.
Really neat. And if you watch those moments, you'll remember them more for the emotion than for the football. Of course, it's awesome to see the Saints and Drew Brees win that Super Bowl. And if you remember, the confetti was flying down. His son, Balin, was wearing the headphones with the confetti. And it was actually his son who was there with him, who was part of the process of him getting into the hall, which is awesome. But I love this element about sports, and I thought that Drew highlighted it so well. Sports have this uncanny power to unite and bring us together and help us heal. And whenever I talk about this, the obvious example, one of the most obvious examples, but the first one that comes to mind for a lot of people is New Orleans after Hurricane Katrina. And you knew that Drew was going to talk about his adopted hometown. And he said, if you love New Orleans, it'll love you back. That's kind of what they say about New Orleans. But the fact that he took that responsibility so seriously, and he was, of course, a leader in the locker room from the moment he got there, even though he was new to New Orleans, even though he'd had the opportunity to go to Miami instead of New Orleans, coming off that shoulder surgery, of course, leaving San Diego, which was where he was drafted. But he took that responsibility so seriously as the leader, as the quarterback, and he determined that that team as a group had to help the city of New Orleans heal and be restored and regain its lifeblood and its heartbeat after Hurricane Katrina was so devastating. And I remember being in New Orleans, gosh, it was actually 2 years later. And I was there for a game, and there was still so much that had to be rebuilt. And there were still evidence of the damage that the hurricane had done. Remember, it even damaged the Superdome, and the Superdome had turned into a place for people who needed somewhere to go. It was essentially a house for refugees during that time. And it was such a dark time, and there was so much infighting politically after the fact. But it wasn't until the Saints returned to the Superdome to play football that it felt like that unity and that spirit was revived. And then, of course, you couldn't write a better movie script than the Saints winning Super Bowl 44, as he points to. And so I love that Drew Brees not only thanked all the people that walked that road with him, but also understood the significance of what his Hall of Fame career and what the Saints played in restoring a city, an entire population, millions of people who had either lost almost everything or who were devastated. And obviously many people lost their lives too. Families were changed forever. The city was changed forever. And he talks about how often you have to lose what can be replaced to then understand the value and the significance and the priority of what cannot be replaced. And so those are life lessons, not just football lessons, but yeah, really underscored what I feel about sports and particularly football, because football happens to be something that we agree on in this country. One of the few things that we agree on somehow. sports bring us together. Somehow our passion for our favorite teams and our favorite athletes, they help us heal, because healing begins when we take care of one another. Healing begins and healing takes place when we are unified. So much divides us in this country, but somehow sports, the Saints, the Red Sox after the Boston Marathon bombing. And there are so many other examples of where sports have brought communities together across ethnic boundaries, language boundaries, cultural boundaries, all of the various ways that we are divided in this country. Sports have this inane power to help us heal. And New Orleans is a phenomenal example of that. It's probably the gold standard. And I love that Drew Brees did not overlook that, and that it touched him and his family and changed them for good as well. But also, you can tell what kind of a man he is, that he took that responsibility seriously, even though he wasn't from New Orleans, but he understood. He got it. The Saints got it. And I'm glad that's part of his Hall of Fame story, and now the Pro Football Hall of Fame overall. Glad to have you with us on this Monday. Really excited about what we have in store in week 2 here. We're past the launch week. No dogs throwing up, no bugs attacking me. Hopefully it gets even smoother as we go. Good to hear from you at A-Law Radio for the conversation to continue. And we'll talk to you Tuesday on YouTube and the Rogue Media Network.